Hello, welcome back to another FPL video. I hope everyone is doing well. We've got an interesting game week 32 coming up ahead of us with Spurs having a double game week and generally just some interesting fixtures as well. So today we're going to be looking at those players to avoid the solid picks and the essentials for the game week 32. If you are new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for daily FPL content. Hit the like button if you do enjoy the video, and let's get straight on into this one. So first things first, we are going to talk about Spurs because they do have the double game week for this week. They play against Southampton and Everton, so definitely looking like a good game week, especially for the attacking players of Spurs. We've got in the avoid section Eric Dyer and Doherty. These two are basically just representing the defence of Spurs, who've just looked pretty woeful throughout the season, and we also just don't really know who is going to play. Dyer is getting rotated in and out of that team. Doherty has been in and out as well. I think Aurier he's looking like he's a little bit more solid at right back, but he still is one to get rotated as well. I was thinking that maybe the likes of Davinson Sanchez or the Alderweireld would kind of stomp their place in at the back, but no, Eric Dyer and Rodon have been rotated back in, so we really just don't know who is going to play. And then we've also got Ndombele there at the end, and he also represents a few others of the attackers as well, who look kind of good going forward, the likes of Bergwijn, even the likes of Bale currently. You know, Ndombele looks really like a really good player, but that just doesn't kind of translate into attacking returns, especially for FPL. He just doesn't look like too great of an asset. And mentioning Bale there, I do also think that Reguilon and Bale are kind of in a category of their own. They're sort of teetering between the avoid and the solid pick section, whereby if they play, they could be absolutely unbelievable options and absolutely smash it in any given game week. But because of the rotation, we just don't know whether they are going to play, especially with Bale. He's been sitting on the bench quite a bit of late. Reguilon did play that game against Manchester United and looked quite good going forward, but will he play both games against Everton and Southampton? I really just don't know. So that's why those two are kind of sat there in between the avoid and the solid picks. And talking of the solid picks, we come firstly to Hugo Laurice. And I did just say that the Tottenham defence isn't too great, but that is true. It hasn't been too great all season. However, Laurice is a player that we know is most definitely going to play in both games, and they could end up scraping together a clean sheet in one of them. And because the Spurs defence hasn't been too great of late, Laurice is also a player who's actually been picking up some save points and could even get himself some bonus points as well. So I do think that just because he will play in both games, he could actually be a pretty decent option for this double game. We've got Lucas Moura in there as well, who has actually been picking up some minutes and has also been getting some attacking returns of late and generally just been looking quite good going forward. So if he does play both games, could be a very good kind of differential to send you up those leaderboards. And just out of the Spurs attackers, obviously apart from the two main men who we will come on to, I think Lucas Moura looks the most likely to play in both games and also the most likely to get some kind of attacking returns as well. So Lucas Moura for me looks like a pretty decent pick. Now coming on into the essentials, the two main men, the two main guys who, as I say, are pretty essential, especially Harry Kane. Harry Kane is a player that you basically, I think, cannot go without for this game week. He will be the most captain player for this game week, and he will send you absolutely flying down the leaderboard if you do not own him. And I think the same can be said, to be honest, for Son. Son does have a very high ownership as well, and is likely to do pretty well in this double game week as well. He scored against Manchester United, and he will probably go and do something against either the likes of Southampton or Everton. Obviously, choosing between the two in terms of a captaincy is going to be a very interesting one. I think personally, I'd be going for Harry Kane just because of the level of consistency that he does show week in, week out. Gets plenty of attacking returns, whereas Son gets more points for being a midfielder, so there is the potential of putting the armband on him as well. But either way, I think these two are very essential players for the coming game weeks, or for this particular game week 32 that they do have a double in. And as I said, they play against Everton and Southampton, who just haven't been very good defensively so far this season, so they could easily go and bag goals. Next, we're going to move on to the rest of the game week players, basically, because no one else doubles. I'm just sort of looking generally at what players to avoid, what players are solid picks, and what players could be essential for this game week 32. Firstly, we've got Crystal Palace. They don't play in game week 32, and they've been looking pretty poor anyway, so don't be going anywhere near any of those players. We've also got Aubameyang in there as well, and now, Arsenal do play against Fulham, so Aubameyang could actually be a decent option. Whether that is if he plays, he has not been playing recently because of the flu, because of various reasons, and I just think it might be a little too risky to be bringing Aubameyang in when you just don't know whether he is going to play, and he's most likely going to play in the Europa League fixture as well. So I do think Aubameyang for me is an avoid. Obviously, on his day, he is an incredible option. However, just because we don't really know whether he is going to play, for me, for now, Aubameyang is an avoid. Now, the final player in there, you may be a little bit bit surprised to see him in there, especially after he has picked up 2 assists in the past 2 games. This is mainly because I don't actually think that West Ham are going to keep a clean sheet, and I think that this game against Newcastle could be a little bit of a trap. West Ham have lost Declan Rice, their main kind of defensive midfield stomper, and they also have been without a Bonner for a while as well, and the defence since those injuries haven't actually been very, very good at all. And they also have just picked up another injury of Creswell at left back, and so defensively are actually looking pretty weak, especially playing against a Newcastle side who is scrapping for relegation and have actually been picking up goals in the previous couple of games. Newcastle do also have a fresh Callum Wilson back from injury, so I do think they can pick up some goals in this game. And so Soufal for me for now is an avoid. Obviously, you know, he could go and prove me wrong and pick up an assist and a clean sheet. However, this is mainly just because I do think that Newcastle will end up scoring in this game. Then we move on into the solid picks, and the first main man here is Iheanacho. Went and absolutely smashed it against West Ham, got that last minute brace, picking up a 13-pointer, and this week he plays against West Brom. Now, people were worried about his rotation. However, after he goes and picks up a brace, in my mind, there is absolutely no chance that he goes and gets rotated. So Iheanacho, for me, playing against West Brom, looks like a very, very solid pick and offers some real good value, around the kind of 5.5 million, and still can definitely be considered as a differential. The next main man we have here is Adama Triore. Now, after Pedro Neto went off injured, Adama definitely played a more kind of central role for Wolves, and we actually saw when he picked up the goal that he ran through the middle and absolutely blasted that ball home. It was a great finish. He did shank a couple of shots during the game, but I think this game against Sheffield United especially, Wolves could go and absolutely have a field day, and Adama Traore, especially with how slow some of those Sheffield United defenders are, could absolutely go and bang. And this guy is like a pure gem in terms of differential. Hardly anyone owns him in the game, so he could really send you flying up the leaderboard this week against Sheffield. And his attacking returns, to be fair to him, have actually been improving over the past couple of game weeks. So Adama Traore looks like a pretty solid pick for this coming game week 32. And the next, or the final solid pick, is the main man, Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's finding a little bit of that form that he had last season, picking up a goal in the previous game, kind of showing why he is worth that money over the likes of Nat Phillips, who is 3.3 million cheaper, but at the weekend scored in basically the last minute, generating a 9-point gap between him and Nat Phillips. And I'm sure plenty of Trent owners who went for Trent over Nat Phillips will be very pleased with that one. And yeah, I just think generally with the fixtures that Liverpool have for the rest of the season, especially this game week against Leeds, you know, Trent's going to be whipping that ball into the box no end. Leeds are very poor, especially in the air defensively, so I think that Trent could have an absolute field day in this game, and so Trent for me is a pretty solid pick for game week 32. Then we move on into the essentials bracket, the rest of the game week 32 players that I think are essential to own. And the first one we have here is Bruno Fernandez. This is basically just because of effective ownership, and they do play against Burnley. So against Burnley, I think that Bruno Fernandez could easily go and pick up maybe a goal, assist, or just generally some attack and return, so it's very good to own him for this game week. Then the final player we have here is Jesse Lingard, and you may be really questioning whether he is essential, and it's very fair to ask that question. The main reason he isn't here is just because the last 3 weeks he's picked up double-digit hauls. His ownership is absolutely flying up, so it is potentially getting to the stage where if you don't own Jesse Lingard, your rank is actually going to drop quite heavily. And playing against Newcastle this week, I know I did say that I do think Newcastle will score against West Ham, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that West Ham are going to score against Newcastle. I think that West Ham will win this game through the likes of Jesse Lingard, but I also do think that Newcastle will score, and because of that, I think that Jesse Lingard is actually a very good option, because they're going to have to score a few goals in this game to beat Newcastle. And with Lingard's ownership rising, as I have mentioned, I do think it's very good to get your hands on Lingard for this game week. So this has been a quick little look at those players who could potentially be essential, and the solid picks, and obviously the stinkers to avoid for the double game week 32. I'm quite looking forward to this kind of mini double game week with the Spurs players coming through. Personally, own the likes of Harry Kane and Son. I'm very pleased to own those two. Those two are the main guys that I kind of look at getting my hands on. Then probably next on the list would be the likes of Laurice, and then probably Jesse Lingard. You know, Bruno Fernandez looks very good as well, and Trent for the rest of the season I think could be very good picks. And just try not to fall into the trap. So say the likes of Guayon, Bale, any of the other Spurs defenders basically. But yeah, if you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you are new around here, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.